All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Scarlett Hall. I'm the marketing director here at Pulse Financial Services. I see we have a few people still joining us, so we're going to give our attendees just a few more moments to log in. Adam, if you want to progress the slide to the next one, um, we will be having everyone muted for the duration of the webinar, but we do want to encourage questions. So please go ahead and put those in the Q&A box of the Zoom call, and we'll be addressing those towards the end of our time together today. So,
all right. This is Stephanie Anderson, Certified Wealth Strategist with Pulse Financial Services, and welcome to our 2024 Cybersecurity webinar. We're happy to have you all. Certainly in today's world, this topic just becomes more and more important, and we at Pulse Financial feel strongly about helping you stay safe and secure online. In our time together today, we'll be diving into some key strategies and tools to protect your personal and financial information. Eagle Life is a trusted partner of Pulse Financial through Cetera Advisors, and they provide us with access to competitive retirement income and savings products, along with timely education on important financial planning topics that we can offer you as our clients. Representing Eagle Life and delivering the content we are all excited to hear about is Adam Christie, Manager of Internal Sales. Adam started his career as a financial advisor before transitioning into wholesaling investment and retirement income products. He has 20 years of experience in the financial services industry, holds 2 industry designations, Chartered Financial Consultant and Retirement Income Certified Professional, and currently oversees the internal sales team at Eagle Life. We have roughly 40 minutes of content that he's going to be presenting, and then we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A at the end. As Scarlett mentioned, you're welcome to put your question into the Q&A box in the Zoom platform, and we'll address those during the Q&A time. With that, I'll go ahead and pass this off to Adam. Welcome, Adam.
There we go. Sorry, couldn't get myself off of mute. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome. First off, I want to thank the team at Pulse Financial and Stephanie and Andy for allowing us to come on. And I want to thank you all as our esteemed audience here in coming today, taking the first step. And that is really the first step when it comes to this content, is just being present, kind of hearing some of the strategies, some of the challenges, and then talking about how we move forward and help you as we think about some of these really important topics. It was mentioned, if you got questions, we do absolutely urge you to write those down, but then also put them in the chat, and then we're going to have a time to cover those. So again, welcome. Thank you all. I'm gonna jump off camera just so that we save bandwidth as we work through the material. But again, looking forward to speaking with you all. We've delivered this presentation, just a little setup. We've delivered this content to folks all across the nation, all across various industries as well. And it's something that is incredibly timely. It's really, really important. And as you'll see here in just a minute or two, really impacting everybody across the spectrum. So with that being said, let's go ahead and kick into our content for today. This content, we call it One Step Ahead. And again, the idea is for us, for you individually, within your families, within your circles, staying one step ahead. And that's not easy. Boy, technology has moved fast, as all of you know, and certainly we've all lived it here in the last 5, 10, 15 years. The proliferation of things like AI, artificial intelligence, and other technologies have happened so fast, and we don't even really, a lot of folks don't even know, maybe what it means, how it's impacting them, but yet it is on a daily basis. So we're going to talk today about some strategies to help you secure your personal information and prevent fraud. Now, we're going to start this laying out the agenda. I'm just going to give you a little background on the internet, on kind of what's going on in today's environment when it comes to fraud and cybersecurity. And then we're going to talk about a very simple strategy that we call DIP. I'm a fan of the movie Dodgeball. I don't know if anybody on the call has seen the movie Dodgeball. Came out a few years ago, but the 5 Ds of Dodgeball, and DIP was a part of that. So I always laugh at when I see DIP. But our DIP stands for Deter, Identify, and Protect. A really simple strategy that I think you're going to find very useful, and then we'll kind of tie it all together at the end. All right, so starting with kind of the setup on what's going on in our world today. If you think about technology, the internet today is probably the biggest driver of our lives in technology. Everybody's connected. And it seems like, you walk around, everybody's looking down at their phones, whether you're out to eat, whether you're at an amusement park, whether you're even at a sporting event. Boy, you see people just staring down at their phone. 4.9 billion people worldwide use the internet today. And then if you think about banking and our money, almost half of the consumers in the US use mobile banking as their primary account. And that's up from 15% just essentially less than 5 years ago, which is pretty crazy. And you see the flywheel there, the wheel to the right, and some of the different technologies impacting us. Every 60 seconds, there's 241 emails sent. There's 2.4 million Google searches. There's 11,000 fake Facebook accounts removed every 60 seconds. And then 3 million photos created by our smartphones. Pretty crazy to think about all the different things that go on, the engagements, the interactions that happen every single minute. And like I said earlier, it's not just a certain demographic. 15 years ago, yeah, it was the early adopters. It was the younger generation who picked up quickly on some of this mobile technology and technology in general, but that's not the case today. And you're seeing the numbers there at the bottom. Every age group is A, being connected, B, transmitting data digitally, whether you know it or not, and C, are at risk of that data being intercepted. And you look at by age bands, I mean, almost everybody from 18 to 64 is using the internet. And from 65 plus, 3/4 of the people in this country are using the internet. So you can about make a blanket statement that it impacts us, every single one of us, if not individually, it's within our households, within our families. Now, the negative side of that is, again, the potential for data breaches. And these are some of, if you look in, this is from 2022, there were 4,100 data breaches across a number of different companies, but 22 billion customer records were impacted. And you look at some of these logos here, I'm sure some of these are resonating with you all as you look at them. Household names, right? You've got LinkedIn, you've got Marriott. Anybody ever stayed at a Marriott recently? There was a data breach, again, just a couple years ago. Folks tied to their key cards. Some folks couldn't get in hotel rooms. Some folks, their personal information that was tied to their Marriott accounts was at risk. eBay, Cap One, Equifax. I mean, you name it. There has been data breaches, and that has not slowed. You see every day in the news this happening. You yourselves have probably received, whether it's via mail or via email, a data breach notice where your data in some way, shape, or form could have been put at risk. And there's an offer. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and when we get to the protect phase. But this offer to do credit monitoring, so it's continually happening. Really quick, 3 key data breaches that took place. The Equifax breach in 2017, that was impacted 145 million Americans, their names, their address, their social security numbers. Capital One, one of the biggest credit and credit card providers in our country, in 2019, 100 million customer records were breached. And then SolarWinds, a government contractor, 18,000 government agencies, essentially went undetected for months. So it's happening in a number of different ways, a number of different industries. You see at the bottom there, just really briefly, the value of your data. Your social's worth about $4 out there, call it on the dark web and in different spaces. Banking logins is worth $40. Credit card details can be anywhere from about $14 to $30. But when they get a full range of documents, that's where it becomes very valuable, because they can tie all those things together that impacts, again, everything from your bank accounts to your credit and on and on and on. How does that, really quickly looking at this slide, it just shows the amount of money that's impacted from these data losses. And look, just a couple of quick bullet points. In 2022, $10.2 billion of losses from data breaches. That was up from $6.9 billion in 21. So in 1 year, a $3 billion plus increase in losses. It's incredibly impactful, and it's something that we have got to consider as we think about this DIP strategy. Okay. Now, one other key bullet point I'll point out is nearly 90% of data breaches are caused by an employee mistake. For those of you, in the workforce today, certainly your employer has made you take training on, data security, et cetera. But again, that's where most of the data breaches happen, is phishing, spamming attempts, or other ways where an employee just makes an honest mistake and it opens up this can of worms. So again, for those of you in the workforce, that's why it's super important that we, understand those processes and take the precautions. Again, just real quick, the impact of identity theft. Nearly 15 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2021. Every 14 seconds, somebody in this country has their identity stolen. And I'm going to argue, we're going to talk about it here in just a second, but the last bullet point, identity theft victims. This to me is the most impactful. Identity theft victims spend about 330 hours attempting to clear their name. That is crazy. So it's not the fact of it happening, it's what happens afterwards that really causes the pain and suffering when you get your identity stolen. It's the countless hours and time and resources and money, not even the money lost from maybe, your bank account getting hacked. It's all the things that happen after that to try to get it fixed that are the issues. So we've kind of now heard a little bit about where we're at, right? With this advancement of technology and how it's intertwined in the DNA and everything we do, but also the downside of that is a lot of our data is floating out there. What are we going to do? What can you do to, again, use this acronym DIP? We're going to defer. We're going to look at strategies to identify, and then we're going to talk about how do we protect against any of these breaches. So let's start with deter. So, you're already hearing a little bit about it, but let's understand some of the vulnerabilities that we all have out there in our day-to-day lives. So we're going to talk about 3 core areas of deter and understanding these vulnerabilities. We're going to talk about no tech, which is things like hard copy mail, paper statements, what you carry in your wallet or purse. We're going to talk a little bit about low tech, which are credit cards, passwords, social media, et cetera. And then we're going to talk about some of the high tech stuff, your smartphone getting hacked, application data, online data, Wi-Fi breaches, et cetera. So starting with the no tech, look, one of the vulnerabilities is really that paper trail. Mail thefts have increased 161% if you look at March 20 to February 21st, according to the USPS. The average American receives 41 pounds of junk mail every year. Boy, I don't know about you guys, but this is one of my least favorite times of the year right now with the elections going, just because of all the ads and the advertisements, whether it's on TV or in the mail that we receive. Boy, it's a lot, right? I'm sure some of you are nodding your heads there. Uh, you've lived it, right? Um, a couple of best practices to think about when it comes to deterring the no tech is one, usually that stuff we get is a bunch of junk. Some of it might be legit birthday cards, etc. But make sure that you are shredding all documents prior to putting them in the trash. That is one core thing, that a core mistake that a lot of folks make, is whether it's credit card offers, whether it's statements from your financial institutions, make sure and shred those. Now, just a thought on shredders. They're different types of shredders. The most effective, or what are called microcut shredders. There's crosscut, there's microcut. Crosscut can still work, still good. The most effective are what's called microcut. So, look, have a shredder, number one, in your home, at your home office. But number two is, if you bought one 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you might want to consider upgrading to what's called a microcut shredder. And then a couple other strategies when it comes to no tech. You can use this website or a phone number that you're seeing on your screen to opt out of credit card offers. Again, a lot of folks get credit card offers in the mail. They just take the whole envelope and throw it away. There's a risk in that. There's some personal information in there. And if they have other bits of information that they can fill that credit card offer in with, now all of a sudden they can open up a credit account in your name. So again, really important that you shred any ones you get, but taking one step further is opting out of a lot of those credit card offers. You can do either way, by that website or the phone number. And then also with catalogs, you can go to catalogchoice.org and you can choose to cancel specific catalogs that you get in the mail. So a couple of strategies there. Credit card fraud, again, this makes up a lot of the fraud, but 46% of global credit card fraud happens in the US, resulting in about 12.5 billion. Look, a lot of consumers say, hey, it's the merchant's responsibility. The nice thing with credit cards, a lot of them today, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, you do have some protection when it comes to point of sale transactions, but it doesn't take away, again, all the pain and suffering of maybe what the time it takes to get reimbursed, the amount of work it takes to get reimbursed, etc. So when it comes to credit cards, there are three different types or categories of credit cards that we're going to talk about. So the high risk, low risk, and least risk. High risk credit cards, these are kind of the old school way. There's not a lot of these left, but it's the old school magnetic strip cards only. What happens in that magnetic strip is your personal card information is contained in that strip. And when you swipe it, that information is exchanged with the terminal. So it's all right there in the magnetic strip. There's a high risk there of any skimming device. So, fraudsters will put skimming devices, whether it's on ATMs, credit card terminals. And when you do the old school magnetic swipe, they can instantly pick up that card information. So it's a pretty high risk. So that's why you've seen a lot of card carriers in the last 5 to 10 years move to chip technology. Now there's a couple of different types of chips. There's the RF or NFC chip, and then you've got the EMV chip. The RF chip is something that's built into the card. Usually it's not visible. If you're looking at a credit card, if you pull out one of your credit cards from your wallets right now and take a look at it, usually it's embedded inside the plastic, an RF chip. These are ones you can go to the terminal, you can tap usually. Now look, the RF chip is a much safer way than the old magnetic strip method. There's a unique transaction ID number created every time that chip is used at a terminal versus your actual credit card information being in the strip. So it's a much safer way to make transactions with merchants. Now, the step up from that is what's called the EMV chip, and that's usually when you look at a card. If you've got a chip visible from the outside of your card on the plastic, that's usually an EMV chip, silver or gold in color. This is where you would insert it into a terminal. It reads the chip. This is the least risk, the most protection. Again, same strategy here. A unique transaction number is exchanged between the card and the terminal. And usually it might require a PIN to use that chip or that card. So this one is usually the highest protection you can offer. Now, a lot of cards will have both. If you looking at your card, you might see the chip, but you also might see a little, RF little icon. Looks like a kind of waves moving out or radio waves. Some of them have both. But again, just think about when the action here is if you've got a chip, try to avoid doing the swipe with your magnetic strip on the back. Either use the tap function, or the function where you push your card into the terminal using the chip. Okay. Another couple of best practices here on credit cards. Don't sign the back of your card. I had some fraud on my credit card a number of years ago. I have not signed a credit card or a debit card since. I take a Sharpie marker with every new card and I write CID on the back of every single card. Now, when you present it, maybe you're out to eat, I hope, I'm actually pleased when the waiter or waitress asks me for my ID. I'm like, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. I thank them every time for asking for my ID. Some of them don't. You can always be friendly and remind them, hey, I got CID in there, but it's just an extra layer of protection that you can do. That's a little simple thing. So don't sign it, just write CID and Sharpie marker on the back of your card. Another way is, a lot of folks are using credit cards to get the additional perks, benefits, always the credit cards tend to be safer than the ATM or debit cards because it's not pulling directly from your bank account. It's using credit. So the reimbursement, tends to be a little bit more friendly there from that point of view. Watch for skimmers. If something looks out of whack on an ATM or a terminal at the merchant, go to a different terminal, ask the merchant, or use the tap function instead. And then the other thing is smartphone app. I know a lot of you, again, you saw the numbers earlier, using your smartphone for your banking information. If you're doing that, that's great. I know a lot of you, maybe checking your balances on a daily, weekly basis, but we really urge you to do that. Use the app, whether it's a credit card or your bank account, your debit card. Use the app as frequently as possible. A lot of them now allow you, obviously you can see your transactions real time, but a lot of them will allow you to pause or freeze your card instantaneously. So if you lose it, misplace it, we can do this on our credit card that we use for gas and groceries. I can instantaneously, by just hitting a button, freeze my card, and we've done it. And then we end up finding it like 2 hours later and I unfreeze it. So that's some capability that a lot of these applications have. So check with your local, whether it's bank or credit union to see if their app has that functionality, or if you have a credit card, check with your credit card provider to see if they have that functionality in their application as well on your phone. Passwords, look, this is one where we tend to see big data breaches is from passwords and folks not using strong passwords. So best practices here, and before we get into the best practices, just a little frame of reference. The chart you're looking at on the right lays out how quickly a fraudster using technology can crack your password. So if you're seeing in the purple there where it says instantaneous, if you have 4 to 11 characters and you use numbers only, they can crack it instantaneously. If you're using lowercase letters only, 4 through 8 characters, they can crack it instantaneously. If you use upper and lowercase letters, anywhere from 4 to 6 characters, instantaneously. You're getting the idea. But then as you make it more complex, so you add uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, symbols, the more kind of variance you can add in your passwords, the harder it is for them to crack. And you can see there, if you use a 12-character password with numbers, upper and lowercase letters, and at least one symbol, it takes them 226 years, a hacker with high-end technology, to crack your password. They're not going to be able to do it in your lifetime. So that's the key. So a couple other best practices on passwords. One, use multiple passwords. Don't use the same password for different websites. Because again, they hack one. Now all of a sudden, if they get your keystrokes or your favorites, they can see websites you go to frequently. They're just going to try that password on those. Try to use a minimum of 12 characters, and again, multiple character types like we just talked about. So using symbols, using upper and lowercase, use some letters and numbers. A lot of folks use this strategy called phrasing, where you think of a phrase that, something that's maybe you're passionate about, something that, you live, you love every single day. This example, ice cream for dinner, you can use that as a password by adding numbers into that equation along with some symbols. A lot of companies have gone to what's called multi-factor authentication. I know a lot of you, maybe if you log into your bank account or other apps or websites, it forces a message to your phone. It might be a code, it might be a number, and then you have to punch that into the website or the application that you receive on your phone via text message, or maybe it's email. That's multi-factor authentication. MFA, you'll see it here in a couple of slides, but it reduces, I think, 85 to 90% of data breaches. So it's a really secure way to do business. And then encrypted password storage applications. A lot of folks, again, I get it, we get it. There's a lot of websites, a lot of different passwords that you have to remember. Some folks will write them down old school in a book somewhere at their house. Some folks might try to type them into a document. We recommend, and a lot of industry professionals recommend, you can use encrypted password storage applications out there. NordTech, there's a number of them. There's the data point on multi-factor authentication. It blocks 99% of automated attacks, where they're just bots, automated attacks trying to attack a website. A couple of things about social media, like, I use social media, try to stay in contact with family and friends that way. A couple of best practices. One, make your posts private, meaning, hey, they have to be a friend to be able to see your posts. There's a number of reasons for that. A lot of fraudsters taking your information, taking pictures of yours, and creating fake accounts in your name. That happens a lot. You saw the fact earlier that 11,000 fake accounts are removed from social media, from Facebook specifically, every single day. Don't post your middle name or put your middle name on Facebook. Again, you're just giving away details about yourself that can be used in certain situations. Your date of birth, try to avoid posting that. Your home address, certainly. Your relationship status, school locations, graduation dates, pet names. The more stuff that you share, why do they say this? Why are we saying this to not post this stuff or try to avoid it? Is these are all things that typically people use as security questions, number one, or they're things that they end up using as part of passwords. And so again, the more that a fraudster knows about you, the better the chance they have to be able to, again, get through security questions, figure out a password, etc. The other thing too is vacation photos. Like, I've started to do this, waiting till I get home to post that we're on vacation, because whether it's fraudsters, whether it's somebody maybe even looking to potentially break into a house, if they know you're on vacation, you're just kind of leaving the door open. Well, I know they're gone. They just posted. They posted from the beach in Mexico. Kind of opens yourself up to additional risks. And then just be cautious about, friends maybe you haven't heard from in 20 years reaching out to you, especially direct messaging, not on a public post, like direct messaging you. That could be a scam. Friend requests from strangers. If you don't know them, don't friend them. Shopping from product posts, answering quizzes. This one, guys, my wife did one. She kind of fell for this a few years ago, but these quizzes, they do like personality quizzes, and people will repost them with their answers. A lot of times those are actually scams to get you to put your personal information out there, again, that you may use in security questions, that you may use in passwords. Don't fall for that. Don't repost that stuff with your personal answers. All right, mobile devices. Let's talk about securing your mobile device. So you've got passwords. Ensure, again, that you have a device password on your phone. Really, really important. And the stronger the password, the better. You can use fingerprints. Most iPhones and Androids now have a fingerprint option, which is really safe, or an eye scan. Those are unique to you. Some of the strongest password there that you can use on your phone. Also limit what can be accessed on the lock screen. Again, these are just setting things that you can change. And really be careful with the autofill. I know whether it's Apple or Android, Google Chrome has an autofill. A lot of times it'll remember your passwords and autofill. Be careful, because if they crack your example, they crack your Google account, and then all of a sudden they've got autofill, it's going to autofill all the passwords that you put in if you have that feature on. So be careful with that. Location and privacy. You can disable a lot of location in the app itself. And for some of you, it might be a little bit more complicated. You might have to get some help with that. But there's some apps that, look, you don't really need location on. There's some that you do. For those of you maybe used Uber recently and you tried to get a ride from one place to the other, maybe airport to a hotel or something else, you got to have location on. Necessity for the app to work, for you to get a ride. But there are other apps that ask for your location, and all they're doing is they're tracking information on you. They're tracking where you're at to try to get demographic information, social economic information, so that they can use it and sell it. It's not needed for the app. So just be mindful of that. And then your physical device, most phones now have a Find My iPhone or Find My Android device in case it gets lost. You can go to another phone or a website and be able to find your phone via GPS data. So make sure you understand that and have that activated if it's an option. There's also a remote wipe option to completely wipe and erase all the data on your phone if and when it's lost or stolen. So just some simple things you can do. Again, if you got questions on any of this, I would urge you, go to your local cell phone provider, whether it's Apple, or Verizon, T-Mobile, you name it. They can walk you through this stuff pretty easily. All right, we're going to skip through that just in the matter of time. Again, just thinking about spam and phone calls. Again, there's more options in your phone to be able to limit spam messages. So those are unwanted calls from unknown sources. There's, whether it's iPhone or Android, they have settings in there where you can block those calls, silence those calls, so that you're not getting hit with those spam messages. And fraudsters are trying to get personal information from you, IRS scams, for example. If you have that on, you're not going to, that phone call is not going to ring through you. So again, these are things that your cell phone provider can certainly help you with, or maybe a family member who's really tech savvy can help you with as well. Robocalls, again, just a quick strategy here. There is a do not call list that you can utilize either by calling the number on your screen there, 1-888-382-1222, or do not call.gov. Either way, you can help limit some of those, marketing or phone scams. For those of you who are using peer-to-peer payment apps, whether it's Apple Pay, Venmo, Zelle, these are pretty popular ways of moving money in between friends, colleagues, et cetera, or even vendors. Make sure you know the recipient. Also make sure and keep those transactions private. There's usually a setting to do that. And then, again, make sure that you've got a password protect on your phone as well as the app. So just some key things to think about there. Wi-Fi. Really quick, this is one that tends to get a lot of people, maybe you're traveling or in a public place and you're logging on and using that public Wi-Fi. There's a big risk with using public Wi-Fi. And, this is something that tends to trip a lot of folks up. A lot of identity theft happens on public Wi-Fi. Malware, ransom attacks, where they hold your, device essentially for ransom, and they want you to pay money for them to unlock it. This has been an ongoing problem, continues to get bigger. So look, a couple of things with Wi-Fi. If it's at your home, if you've got Wi-Fi set up in your home through a router, et cetera, make sure that you're using a secured, encrypted network, WEP, WEP, WPA, or WPA2. Make sure that's enabled on your device. Again, if you've got questions on that, usually your internet provider can help you with that. And then when you're in public, be very leery of public Wi-Fi. Okay, if you're going to use public Wi-Fi, make sure you have some sort of a firewall or VPN set up on your device, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a cell phone. If you don't, we recommend try it at all costs, just try to avoid public Wi-Fi, because if you get on Wi-Fi and then you access personal information, that information could be visible to fraudsters. Data backup, always very important. Again, whether it's iCloud, Google Drive, there's ways to back up some of your data in case it's lost. So just, again, a best practice there. And then once you're done with that data, again, we delete it. Make sure you take the steps to remove the data from any device, especially if you're going to donate, you're going to sell your cell phone, desktop, tablet, et cetera. Make sure it's completely wiped from the device, all your data, before you either donate it, sell it, trash it, et cetera. All right, let's jump on to identify. So we've talked about some strategies to defer. Let's talk about identifying suspicious activity. So a couple of things, back to physical mail. If mail or bills don't arrive that you're expecting, that should kind of trigger a flag. Denials of credit for no reason. Hopefully that's a no-brainer, but boy, if we get denied credit and you're like, I didn't put in an application for a loan or for a credit card, that should throw up a red flag that, I need to check my credit. Google yourself. Always ways to find out about what's going on in the digital world with yourself, and expect those financial statements as they come. Make sure, whether it's online, whether it's hard copy, make sure that you read through all the lines and that, hey, all these charges are charges I've made. A couple of best practices here. One, many of you might be using this opportunity or this service through the USPS. My wife and I do. But USPS has what's called informed delivery. It's a free service through the Postal Service. It takes less than 5 minutes to sign up for it. But what happens is every day you get an email with all of your mail essentially scanned in. You get an image in the email of all your mail. And so that way you know what's coming through. And then if it doesn't show up in your mailbox, again, red flag, I was expecting a card or a check or a bill. It showed up in the email, but it didn't show up in my mailbox. I need to keep an eye on this. And you might have to call the postal service and whatnot. And that's happened to us. Also, again, I know a lot of you may be doing this, but if you're not, by law, every one of you is entitled to one free credit report for all the major credit bureaus every single year. So take advantage of that. You can call them directly, each one of the credit bureaus, or you can call this 877 line on your screen to get those reports, or you can go online as well. Take advantage of that. Again, if you can identify that up front, a lot of times you can squelch it early and remove some of that pain burden. Phishing, smishing, and call scams. Phishing is scams via email. Smishing is scams via text. And then obviously you have calls, which we've all, received spam calls from unknown callers. Look, we've had, I'm sure many of you have had a call from somebody who claiming to be the IRS. I will tell you this, the IRS will never call you. They will never call you. That's not what they do. That's not their process. So if you get a call from somebody from the IRS saying you owe back taxes or whatever, 99.9% chance that's a scam. Just hang up, and then you can report it in a number of different ways. You can block the number, etc. Same thing with smishing via text messages. You can report that immediately. Check for grammar, check for things where they're trying to push you to take action right away. And again, it's an unknown number. That should be a red flag as well. Email address. Again, don't click into links unless you really know what that link is. Check the email address. A lot of times it'll say it's coming from one spot in the heading or the title, but then the email address is some crazy Gmail or some crazy address. It doesn't match the sender. That's usually a red flag. And then never email personal information, whether it's your social, whether it's other pieces of personal information. Never email. If somebody's requesting something, try to do that more over the phone. Again, still being cautious of what we talked about on calls. QR codes, just talk about this briefly. Look, QR codes are becoming more popular in today's environment. And, the ability, whether it's exchanging money via QR code, paying for things, getting sent to certain websites. You guys probably all been out to eat here in the last month or two. A lot of the menus now are digital. As you go to a restaurant, you scan it with your phone to see a menu, either the drink or the food menu. It's becoming more popular in our society, but with that comes, again, additional risk. A lot of these fraudsters now are placing QR stickers over the top of legitimate QR codes. So again, something just to be aware of. If you see a sticker over the top of something, take notice, kind of, whether it's calling over the server, whether it's another environment, pause and make sure it's legit. ATMs real quick, just hopefully a no-brainer, but if you see somebody lingering near an ATM that you're trying to use, be very, very leery of that. And make sure people do this. Sometimes they don't log out when they pull their card out and leave the ATM. Make sure that you're fully logged out before you leave that ATM. All right, here's a big one. Your team there at Pulse Financial is doing an outstanding job of, I'm sure, working with you on building that retirement income plan, which part of that is Social Security. But you've got to understand that fraudsters now are taking target on Social Security. In 2021, 51,000 plus Americans had their Social Security payments stolen, totaling about $271 million. It's becoming more prevalent, which is very concerning. And look, if they have your full name, your date of birth, and your Social Security number, it's essentially all they need to claim Social Security benefits. So, one thing, again, your team at Pulse there is going to help you with is putting together a plan for Social Security, but then also reminding you of, hey, we got to make sure and check in on our Social Security benefits every single year once you hit the age of 62 to ensure the accuracy, safety, and ensure that, hey, if we weren't ready to turn them on, we got to make sure those benefits are still deferring and they haven't been turned on, because that's what fraudsters are looking to do, is to take your Social Security benefits. So it's something you just got to continue to monitor, especially when you hit age 62, that first age when Social Security benefits can be turned on. On that same note, staying on, kind of this government benefit theme, tax returns. Nearly or over 1 million tax returns, according to the IRS, in 2023 were reported as fraudulent. And the refunds from those fraudulent tax returns totaled about $6.3 billion. Yes, $6.3 billion. So what can we do there? How can we try to avoid that? A, try to file your returns early. Number two is know your tax preparer. Make sure you got a strong working relationship there. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but the IRS, and again, this has been confirmed on multiple levels, they will not call you about unpaid taxes. That is not their process. So if somebody calls you about unpaid taxes, hang up and report it. And then if you suspect any sort of tax fraud, again, notify the IRS immediately. All right, last but not least here, just in the last couple of minutes before we open it up for questions, let's talk about protect. So we already kind of led to this, but the credit monitoring, again, make sure that every year you're checking your credit via the 3 bureaus. But something a lot of people don't understand, for those of you who maybe have kids still in the house, 1 in 50 children were the victims of identity theft last year. And those victims lost about $918 million, again, due to child identity theft. And you're thinking, wow, seriously? People are stealing kids' identities? Yes, this is happening. So a couple of things. One, if you got kids, underage kids that do not need or have a use for credit, freeze their credit. And you can do that by calling each one of the 3 credit bureaus. You can unfreeze it with one simple phone call, but unless they really need it, maybe they're getting to an age where they need a car, or maybe they want to start building some credit with a bank account, you can unfreeze it pretty quickly. But for young children, there's no reason in most cases that they need their credit turned on or access to it. We really recommend freezing that credit, okay? And then again, I talked about this right at the beginning. If you do get a note saying that there was a data breach on some sort of an account that you're tied into, we really recommend take advantage of that free identity theft protection. Only 2% of this country, Equifax being the specific example here, when that got breached back in 17, only 2% of people had taken that free credit monitoring protection, and that was as of October of 2019. So nobody's taking advantage of it, even though it's a free service, after they were specifically told that their data could be at risk. Look, if something happens on your credit report, if you identify it, you can put a fraud report, fraud alert on your credit report. And again, there's your 3 numbers for Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You immediately should close those accounts that were fraudulent. Third step, file a police report, again, so you have written proof that, hey, that wasn't you. Because the problem is sometimes those merchants might push back and say, no, this was you. But if you have a police report to fall back on and say, no, it wasn't me, I filed a police report, this was fraudulent, they have less standing in court if they try to hold you accountable to, whether it was a loan that was taken out or a line of credit or something else. That police report in that instance is real important. And then again, you can contact the Federal Trade Commission via one of those two websites below. All right, so in summary, again, thinking about the dip strategy, a lot of things that give us concern. There's a lot of exciting things, right, about the internet, but it's also an area, whether it's technology, the internet, et cetera, that can expose us to some liability, to some risk. And if you use the strategy we just talked about today, the dip strategy, we're going to deter thieves by safeguarding your personal information, look for ways to deter suspicious activity by routinely monitoring those accounts, and then lastly, protect yourself against identity theft as soon as you suspect a problem. If you take those steps, if you utilize this dip strategy, you're going to put yourself in a much stronger situation long term. All right. With that, we've come to the question portion of our time. So Stephanie, I'm going to turn it back to you to moderate.
Have Stephanie wrap us up if there's no questions. But if any pop in while she's talking, then we'll circle back around and take those.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here again today. Hopefully you took some good notes. Hopefully you learned some good things about deterring and identifying and protecting yourself against cybersecurity risk and identity theft. We do, as a team here at Pulse, try to have some things in place to help our clients. We've had a few clients come to us with situations where they needed some additional help and support in this area, and we're certainly happy to do that in any way that we can. We have our local shred events that we do annually, and that's an attempt to help curb any personal and identifying information going into the trash. So please, stay posted on those dates and join us for those events so that we can help in this area. Feel free to ask us about any of those things or any other way we can help you protect yourself against any of these risks. And it looks like,
oh, that's a great question. So Adam, are we able to share your the phone numbers and the content that was within the presentation? Certainly we'll have the recording of this, but
yeah, a couple of resources. We'll get you all the contact information for all those entities that we talked about. And then we also have a brochure that has a lot of that information as well, that kind of ties this, all the concepts we talked about in a much more shortened, condensed way. It's a little bit more easy to I guess digest, if you want to put it that way.
absolutely.
So we will get that out and then
Okay,
allow
thanks,
you
Adam.
to distribute to everybody that's on the call.
Perfect.
all right. And then we'll have a recording available on our weekly market review. And if anybody wants to listen to this or forward it on to anybody who wasn't able to make it, certainly feel free to do so. Again, thank you to everybody for your time. And we hope that you are feeling a lot more prepared and a lot safer for protecting yourself against these risks. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Take care.